Okay, so it's recording. So tell us who you are.
Hello, my name is Ryan, and I am a territory manager for ZooMed Laboratories. I work in the Southern California territory. So today, I'm going to tell you about an animal that I find very interesting that I keep at home.
What is that animal?
I hope you guys are ready for it. It is a species of betta fish. So
Betta fish are boring though.
Betta
right?
fish, some people might think betta fish are boring. Like you see them in all the pet stores, but the betta fish that I keep are anything but boring. So the ones that I have they're pretty much the gangsters of all of the bettas that there are out there. So what you might not know is that there are in excess of 70 different species of betta, only one of which is commonly seen in pet stores. So the ones that you see are all basically the same type, and I keep one that are wild type bettas. So the ones that I keep are Betta unimaculata. They're a lot bigger than the regular bettas you see at like the pet stores that you have locally, and they're just a way different fish. So they get the ones that I have, the Betta unimaculata, they're all subspecies, or they're described by like the locale that they come from. So all of them have different names depending on the river that they were collected from or that they came from originally. So I have 3 different ones that I keep right now. They're all from the island of Borneo, so kind of a cool area, and they're all mouth brooding bettas. So what that means is they don't make a bubble nest. They actually, the male and female, when they court, they kind of lock up, do some stuff, and when the female's laying their eggs, they come together, and the male will fertilize the eggs as they're falling down, and then he'll go through and collect them in his mouth, and he'll actually hold them for the duration of the time it takes for them to be free swimming, and then they'll spit them out. So super interesting. So these guys are from like river systems. They have the labyrinth organ, so they can breathe air from the surface of the water, but where they're from is going to be a little like heavier flow. So they're not going to be in like stagnant areas. So the way that I keep the ones that I have right now, they're all in 15-gallon enclosures, because you can see like most of the bettas I have are probably closer to like the 3.5-4 inch range. So they get considerably larger than even like the king bettas that you see. So I keep them with a ton of floating plants. So I do different types of like water lettuce, frog bit, duckweed, stuff like that. And then I use one of our paludarium filters in the corner of the enclosure to kind of give it to mimic the flow of a stream. So I'll break up the flow with different pieces of like spider wood and rocks and logs and stuff like that, so they have places to hide. And then there's the place that mimics the flow of like the river. It's the water quality, they seem to be just incredibly hardy fish. I've never had any problems with them as far as water quality goes. I keep the pH close to neutral. Where they're from, it would get well below neutral and be super acidic, but I usually add like catappa leaves and stuff like that to add some tannins to the water, so it drops it down a little bit. But I've never been super concerned about maintaining a specific pH, just kind of making sure the water stays really clean and trying to keep it as close to neutral as possible. And I've had really good success even just getting them to breed and do their thing. Yeah, so these ones live more in flowing water. It's still going to be like smaller pools in the rivers, I would assume. I've looked up a lot of pictures. The one thing that's really neat about these bettas is there's not a ton of information out there, and there's not a lot of people that are keeping them. So kind of what I did when I was getting some of the pairs that I have, something else that's really fun about them is that you keep them together. So these guys will live in smaller communities. If you have pairs, once they pair off, they do really well together, and they're actually pretty good. You don't see a lot of fighting or anything that you would see in like the normal betta splendens that are available all over the place.
Like males together,
you can keep males and females together. If you do have multiple males in the enclosure, they'll kind of just find different areas to hide, but they typically they won't like spend all their time beating each other up. So I keep mine in just pairs, but when you're raising up babies, you don't have to separate them out like you would other bettas as quickly, and they do well together. So you can find them in a bunch of different color varieties. Everywhere they're from, they kind of look a little different. Some of them will be darker with like bluish spots on them, and some of them will be like lighter colors, reds and kind of pink, stuff like that. So they're pretty neat. And then they, even from different locations, they can be in different sizes. So some of the bigger Unimaculata, they could be up to like the 5-6 inch range. So
they get way bigger.
Way bigger.
Whoa.
These bettas, and they got a huge mouth. The whole mouth brooding thing. The males have a giant mouth. So some of the bigger ones that I have, they could swallow a normal betta, no problem.
So what kind of setup do you have to have for them?
So the one thing that's really important for these guys is that they can't be kept in an enclosure that has an open top, because they're a little skittish. They get used to you, but they will jump out. So the bettas, I keep them in a 15-gallon tank. They would do all right in like a 10-gallon tank with a lid, but I like to keep them in a 15-gallon tank, and then I keep the volume of water down to 10 gallons for each pair. The bigger species I have, I'll keep them in a 20-gallon and keep it down to 15 gallons volume of water. So I do it it's a little more similar to what like a paludarium style enclosure would be. I have a lot of different pieces of wood in there, so like spider wood and some, opani wood and others, and I'll plant different types of like anubias and stuff like that on the back. So when the water evaporates, the plants that come out of the water, it's all plants that do really well. And because the lid is on the tank, it maintains a high humidity. Everything grows really well. So the tank that I keep them in is going to be very similar to a paludarium style. A little bit. So you'll see them like whenever I do like a lot of live foods. So I'll do different, I'll do like smaller feeder fish. A local pet store where I am has a bunch of different like guppies, and they even have like feeder white cloud minnows, which are a little smaller, and they do really well. So I'll toss fish in there just to get them active, but then I feed them a lot of ghost shrimp as well. That's something that would be really common where they are. I think it's supposed to make up a big portion of their diet are different types of shrimp. So I try and include that a lot, but they take pellets really well. So mine almost feed exclusively on our betta pellets, getting live food as treats. But if I start feeding a lot of live foods, I'll see a lot of the mating behaviors come out. Like once they start getting like really good foods, high in fats, they really turn on. When the male fires up, one of my males is like a super dark black, and then all of his like gill plates are the most iridescent blues, and then he has blue speckles going all through him, and he'll get super fired up after he has a full belly, and then just be sitting there showing off for the female, making a big wide mouth, kind of like looking like he's yawning all the time, just kind of trying to get her in the mood, I guess you'd say. They're eating. I don't ever see them eating any of the plant matter that's in there, because I do maintain a lot of different floating plants. I'm usually like having to cull that out, and I can't imagine many fish that could keep up with the amount of floating plants I have maintaining these enclosures. So I'm pulling them out. I don't see them eating any of them, but they might be nibbling a little bit.
Say, if anybody has questions for Ryan, put them in the comments below.
There it is.
Yeah, all right. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.